And we are live. Tonight we are running the webcast, Reinventing Tattoo Design, featuring Russ Abbott and Tattoo Smart, with special guests Damon Conklin and Brad Wooten. It's pretty awesome, some of the demos that we saw to begin with. The last video that we just did earlier today in the Reinventing the Tattoo podcast series was with Tommy Lee Wenkner. Pretty sick, so you should definitely hit the archives for that. Now, this is the perfect time to share this around so that more people can watch these things. It's pretty awesome. And we are streaming out through the Facebooks and the YouTubes. So while we're making sure that all the streams are working, I'm going to talk about the upcoming events and then two quick sponsors. So other Reinventing the Tattoo events, I'm checking this out on the new iPhone app. If you do a search for Reinventing in the App Store, Reinventing the Tattoo, you'll find it. Android's coming up later this week. So let's see. Tomorrow, December 16th at 7 p.m., we have Live in the Castro. Haley Adams and Jess are co-hosting straight from the San Francisco, from the Castro. The first guest is Leslie Ma, and they are deep into the queer punk tattoo scene, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Thursdays at noon, every Thursday at noon, Fawn and Jordan host the Tattoo Collecting Podcast, where it's great for both artists and collectors to learn about just tattoos. It's anywhere between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours, and it's great to put on the background at your tattoo shops. Also, let's see, Sundays, we're doing art jams this Sunday evening. 8 or 9, you'll have to check the schedule for the exact time. Nick Baxter is going to be leading an art jam, I believe landscapes, but everyone's always encouraged to check out the descriptions on the events. Also, let's see, what else we have? Monday mornings, we're doing the Reinventing Drawing Group with Jake Meeks at 9 o'clock in the morning. Noon on Mondays, Needle Jig has Let's Talk Tattoo interviews. He interviewed Renee Little. It was an awesome interview last Monday. And then every Monday night is Reinventing the Tattoo subscriber night. So it's all the artists that subscribe to the Reinventing canon doing exercises together. And they're pretty amazing. You could check out, every once in a while, a guy will do one for free. If you look up Andre Malcolm Finger Waves, awesome, two long webcasts. If you wanted to get a sample of that. So yeah, that's what makes this happen, is Reinventing the Tattoo. So yeah, go please subscribe. Hopefully Guy will be beaming in. I know that he was tattooing, but he should be here any minute. Okay, we've got two sponsors to make sure that we plug, because they're helping make this free. Inkjet Stencils. Check it out, inkjetstencils.com, and that's an amazing, you basically print out your stencil, and yeah, well, check it out. They have some videos, and Andre Malcolm will be doing a demo coming up inside of this app. And then Cheyenne Tattoo Machine raffle actually is still going on. tattooeducation.com/giveaway. It's a Solterra, I believe, with a grip. It's a tattoo machine with a grip, so it's pretty awesome prize. And even if you've already been vetted on the list, make sure you just fill it all out again so that we know that you're entering in to win the free Cheyenne machine. Okay, so this is, Reinventing the Tattoo Design with Russ, and I'm going to bring his video in. Ask to start video. And, okay, hey Russ, how goes it?
It was awesome. How are you?
Okay, I'm fantastic. I'm going to check to make sure that this is now working, and ping Guy to get him to come in. But for right now, the floor is all yours. I might pop in to talk about what's going on in the chat room if I could find a good break. But other than that, I'll be just here to help.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, okay. Well, while we're waiting on Guy to show up, I guess I'll just kind of dive in. My background is obviously in tattooing. I've been tattooing since 1998. I got my education in tattooing really from tattooing, and my education in art from tattooing. So, I don't have an art school background. I've just been, very persistent in exploring all aspects of design as it could relate to tattooing. So around 2016, I was searching for a a place other than my tattoo studio's website to put the products that I was making, because I had things like Illustrative Tattooing Workshop DVD, the Abbott Color Wheel, various products that I was putting out. And the idea for Tattoo Smart was born out of a need to have a place, to put those items. And it was just before the iPad Pro had come out, the Apple Pencil, and I was using a Wacom Cintiq to make all of my tattoo designs, and I was exploring all the possibilities that I could figure out in the digital space for tattoo design. And it's obviously just getting really excited about it all, and just seeing that it was going to represent a shift in the way that I would tattoo and design tattoos in the future, and just recognizing that there was a big wave coming, and I was right, because really soon after we launched Tattoo Smart, the iPad Pro came out, and all of you guys switched to designing your tattoos digitally. Pretty much, it just seems like, over the years, it's been a total shift. There's not very many tattooers left who don't use some kind of digital tools in their design process. But early on, it was just a small community of early adopters. And, I was out there trying to connect with the people that were also interested in this new way of designing tattoos. And a lot of them became the early Tattoo Smart contributors and ambassadors. So that brings us to today. I can safely say Tattoo Smart is the world's leading tattoo design marketplace. We launch products almost every week at a steady pace, and the massive growth has occurred in global users and internationally sourced design content. Tattoo design is truly being reinvented in the digital world.
Okay, we now have
And Guy. Hello.
Hey, holy shit! Sorry about that, man.
No sweat.
I thought it was an hour from now.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt your session.
And yeah, man, I was trying to wrap up a tattoo session here, and so I hope that while we're doing the introduction, I can do this last 5 minutes of tattooing. Would that be too disruptive?
Not at all. Yeah.
Where are we at right now?
I've just been kind of jumping in and sharing a little bit about Tattoo Smart's history, getting to the point of, talking about where we're at right now and some of the exciting tools and design processes that we're developing. So
Nice.
Hey, well, maybe while you're all just getting situated, I could read off some of the comments from the chat room, let you all know who's watching, or some of the people who are watching.
for sure.
All right.
So we've got Derb is in the chat room. He's pretty excited to hear what's going on.
Awesome. Hey, Derb.
We've got Jason Lesser is here, Bruno, some folks from the Reinventing crew. The Brad Show is here, says, what's up? Melissa Sink is here. And then, there's a whole other crew on Facebook that I haven't gotten to, but I figured, it's pretty fun to hear who's tuning in.
Shout out to our regulars. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in. And I was planning on giving this, proper introduction to Russ, but many of you already know Russ. He's been kind of a major fixture in terms of not just being a highly visible tattoo artist and shop owner, but also always been kind of pushing the edges of the design process. As long as I've known Russ, he's been interested in technology, and he's always had a lot of ideas. And so Tattoo Smart has really been a kind of a leap into the 21st century. And he's actually, really slowed down his tattooing schedule and focused an incredible amount of energy in helping to bring us these amazing tools. So I'm super psyched to be able to look at some of them tonight. He showed me a few of them yesterday morning, and my jaw just hit the floor. So yeah, thank you, Russ. Thanks for coming to do this with us.
Well, you're welcome, and thanks for having me. It's been
so you guys did the Wacom weekend, right?
Huh? Yeah. So,
Yes.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to before Tattoo Smart, and also before Reinventing was in a digital form too. I remember during that weekend at Hell City, Guy and I presented 2 days of digital design classes to a room full of artists, and it was truly, you know, the beginning back then.
Yeah, it was also before Procreate,
Yeah.
or, you know, before it was really a thing. And so, you know, it was all Photoshop based back then. And of course, Procreate has become the industry standard. It's a lot more accessible. And, you know, of course, an iPad is way more portable and user friendly than a Wacom tablet in a number of ways. So yeah, I mean, it seems natural that that's where this tool development has gone, and I think it's awesome how Russ has invited a lot of his artist colleagues to design tools.
Yeah, man. It's become a, you know, a marketplace more than I could ever produce individually. You know, it's really a collaborative process, and it feeds off the energy that other artists bring, you know, as they discover new tools or processes, then they have ideas and they want to bring them to the platform as well. So, you know, I really feed off of that. I've got some of my own products on there, and, you know, maybe once or twice a year I'll put something on there that I've created myself. But for the most part, I'm more of a collaborator. You know, I'm more of a, you know, a producer in a way, you know, with the projects that we're doing with various artists. This product that I want to show first is a product that I did create entirely on my own. This is a product that replicates spit shading in watercolor on paper, like an arches type of paper. And the actual paper itself was sourced from real paper. With the help of a friend, I tea stained and coffee stained a bunch of papers and photographed them obsessively, you know, like with a very careful attention to the lighting and focus and detail. And we've got all these papers in here that are, you know, straight from authentic sources. And this is the entire library of the papers. I'll just grab one here. And usually, you know, when I work from my library, I don't want to mess up the original. So I'll swipe and duplicate, take that piece of paper and drag it out. And then I can open it up. And in this file, there's a whole bunch of layers that I've already created. And the idea here is that there's actually a whole lot of digital design knowledge and know-how that's sort of encoded in these layers. If you were to just start out and take a picture of any watercolor paper off the internet and put your drawing on it, you wouldn't have nearly the same realistic, authentic effect that we have here. So you can turn off the layer that has the logo in it. And we'll start here at the bottom, this base paper layer, toggle that on and off. That's actually the photo of the watercolor paper. And then we have these layers here for sketch, a few layers for color, which you can add more of your own layers for that. Here's a layer for your black, here's a layer for lines, and here's a layer for your white. And each of these have some unique settings that make them work better with the paper. At the very top here is the top texture layer. So once I have some painting on the canvas, I can probably better illustrate what these layers are actually doing. But they, needless to say, they add sort of the glare and the shine and the shadow back into the paper and can sit on top of your artwork and make the whole thing more realistic.
So is the top texture layer something that you added in addition to the scan of the paper?
Correct. So, one second. Had to mute myself and cough a little bit. So yeah, the process is, you know, you start with this obsessively photographed and perfected paper, and then I create a monochromatic version and adjust the levels, and then set that layer again on top of everything. It's the exact same stain, exact same texture, so everything lines up. And then that is set to layer mode screen, which I think everything is locked down here. Let me unlock it. So this layer is set to screen here in the layer mode, and then its opacity is pretty low. But if you can turn it all the way up or down, and dial in how much. Basically, this represents the light hitting the paper from the room. So once you have some, say, black paint down, it's not going to be totally solid black because the paint itself would be reflective and it would be catching some light from the room. And that's one of the things that really adds to the realism. So yeah, just to really quickly illustrate how it goes, I'll find some completed.
It's not just a texture then, it's actually trying to simulate the way that paper would really behave.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the bottom layer is the photo of the paper, and the top layers are creating the shine and the shadow of the paper and sitting on top of your painting. So here's a illustration I did for a tattoo, and got quite a few layers here, but I'll try to narrow it down. So if we just look at the lines here, you know, another thing, the brushes in this set are made to replicate the way that paint would sit on a textured paper. So it's not a perfect black line. I think that it's important to, you know, have a line that's going to bleed a little bit the way it would in this type of paper. So we have some of my favorites. We have the 3 different Sharpies. So this one's called a new Sharpie. And if you take away the paper base a little bit, you can see it's got a blurry, kind of jittery edge, a rough edge like Sharpie would if it would bleed into the paper. And then we have another brush in the Sharpie series here called Used Sharpie. And so this one, if you lighten your pressure a little bit, it gets a little bit sketchy, like a Sharpie that's going dry. And it feels a little bit
Many
more.
of us will keep those in our kit because they're useful. We know they're useful.
Exactly. And then eventually your Sharpie dries out and it's not creating much of a line at all. So we have a marker for that too. If you go over it, then it gets darker and darker. So it's a attempt at recreating these tools that artists use in the real world. So natural media brush set. And then from, you know, after you get your outline done, go ahead and start that. Lines, okay. So there's my lines. And then you can move into putting your blocks in. You might use a layer for that, of course. And I have a brush that I like to use to paint. It's called Use This to Paint. And it's brilliant, right? Let's see, what do I want to work on here? Let's just say that I want to just put a little bit of shading right in here. Well, you got to fix that. Hold on. So this is just a paintbrush that if you turn it on its side, just like a real paintbrush, it gets thicker. Or if you hold it more vertically, you get a smaller tool. So you can just use this to apply paint like you would a small round brush in a spit shading painting. And then from there, you'd want to switch to the smudge tool and grab one of these brushes at the bottom that says set to smudge. This one's called a running blend. And just like a wet water brush with spit shading, you can start to pull the paint out and create that fade.
Yeah, and I love the smudge tool to begin with, and I think it's awesome that you've just tweaked it a little bit to kind of, you know, mimic the spit shading look.
Yeah, it's all in the settings. I mean, there's the actual texture of the paper is in these brushes. So even when you take away all of the actual paper texture, you know, there's still a lot going on in the brush itself. For example, just kind of lay down a puddle here, switch back, and then you can see, I don't know how clear the resolution is on the Zoom screen share.
I can see really well, but yeah, when you say lay down a puddle, you're basically just providing a bunch of color for it to smudge.
Mm-hmm. And you can cut back into it too. You can push back in and use it kind of like an eraser. So yeah, this is super fun to play with. It's really intuitive.
And it never shreds the paper.
Hmm?
It never shreds the paper.
No, it never does that, no. And when you get into adding your colors in, it's really interesting the way that, you know, colors will sit on top of this paper, it's, you know, it's not going to be as bright. Like, it's going to let you see the color because of the way the settings are. Like, these color layers have, they're set to darken layer mode rather than normal or multiply. I think multiply works pretty good, but darker works a little bit better on the tinted papers. But, you know, it just lets you see the colors the way that they should look as they sit on top of that stained paper, because these are replicating transparent watercolor paintings.
So,
yeah,
what exactly does darken layer mode do differently from regular layer mode?
Well, if it was regular layer mode, I guess I can just illustrate it quickly by switching it. Let me unlock it. So regular normal layer mode, just kind of focus on the color here. So looking at the yellow eyes here, normal mode, it's very opaque, and especially when I take the paper texture off. So now you can see very opaque. But with darken, it's more transparent. It's letting that texture come through naturally.
And how is that different from just simply setting the brush to a lighter opacity?
There's definitely a difference. There's a visual difference in that. And I mean, you might find that you like the, you know, one effect over the other, but when I was doing my experiments with this, I really just wanted to set people up with a file that would have the settings that, you know, would be more optimal, so they could just jump right in and maybe even learn by discovering, why are these layers set to something differently? What, you know, what is encoded in this that's been created by Russ for me to understand, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that you tried everything and arrived at that because it looked the best. I'm always curious to know what the particular different modes and filters specifically do.
Sure.
You know, like on Photoshop, you know, when I use darken mode in Photoshop, I have an opaque layer. It makes all the lighter tones transparent and invisible. And, you know, just the dark values remain. And sometimes that's very handy because it disappears just the right stuff.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, these layer modes are all stolen from Photoshop. So, you know,
Okay.
It probably behaves the exact same way, more or less, that it would in Photoshop.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's cumbersome to try to remember what every mode does. The nice thing is that you can literally just cycle through them really quickly and see what they do.
Yeah.
And just decide what you think looks right. So I kind of rely more on that than understanding exactly what it's doing. But yeah, that's the spit shade set. There's a lot to discover in there. There's a brush called Magic Spit Shader that everyone seems to really like, and it's one that doesn't require the smudge tool. You can do it all with one brush. So, you know, just a light touch will. I see nothing happening. You gotta have a layer. Let's do a layer here.
Hey, can I sit up for a minute?
So this one, it will lay down that wash if you have the brush on its side with light pressure. And then if you start to press harder, you can get all the way to full black, and it gives you that soft edge on it without, you can't really get, you know, precise. You can make the brush smaller, and then, you know, you're still gonna, it's not great for getting into small areas, but if you find a place where it opens up, this thing will really move fast.
And, you know, honestly, that's the way it is with any brush. You know, it's not going to be great for all areas. You're always going to have to, you know, go to smaller and larger brushes for certain parts of the design. But that looks really versatile. I like the way that it mimics the watercolor.
Want to move on to something else?
Okay, yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah, there we're seeing the papers and the spit shading kind of simulation, which is, you know, really very effective. You know, I mean, some people might be completely fooled, think it's analog. So all right, what are we going to see next?
All right, so this is a tool that I developed with Cheyenne. They provided me some very detailed, precise technical illustrations of all of their cartridges.
Oh, nice.
So we made a set of tattoo needles that behave as closely as possible to the real thing. and they're exactly the same size as Cheyenne cartridges. So the idea here is that, when you're lining your piece, you can use the exact same size liner that you would use in a tattoo. And if you'd like to achieve a whip shaded sort of, magged look to your digital art, you can use it for that. And I think one of the most interesting possible uses for it that we're starting to see is training. When you have an apprentice who's, hasn't quite gone to skin yet and has a mentor there to show them what the process of tattooing typically is, they can go through, and in a lot of ways you can replicate the real process of tattooing. So I made this file here that is designed to help you practice as if you were a tattooer, and it comes with the set. So the idea here is we've got, I'll take the instructions away. So I just used a stamp of a design from one of our flash stamp kits that was made by Aaron Francione. It's just a panther head, and I used purple so it would look like a stencil. And if we go through here, I'll make a new layer and select black color and get to the brush set. So this is the Cheyenne brush set, and I'm looking for a, let's say a 9 liner. Let's see how that looks.
Of course, they have an insane number of different cartridges too.
I think there's about 50 in the set. There's also some variants, so some slightly different settings on some. Yeah, let's try it. I think the 9 power is the right one. I wait for this. So I mean, there's obvious differences between real tattooing. I can move this fast and still get a black line. You can't do that with the tattoo machine. So it does take someone there to say, hey, go slower, go faster. You want to avoid, I think, if you're trying to teach someone how tattooing works, you'd want to avoid pinching and zooming and all that, and just force yourself to just do your best to follow it without moving too much.
Right, and that is one of the disadvantages of designing digitally, is we can zoom in as much as we want, and it sometimes gives us a very unrealistic sense of scale. And you can end up, for example, making details that are way too small for the actual tattoo.
Exactly. So I try not to use any of the, there's not a lot of streamline on these brushes either, if any. There's just a tiny little bit of streamline on there, which is the Procreate, ultra smoothing option. It can really take away all the wiggles from your line work. But yeah, if I were to go through the whole thing, it would end up like this. I can take the stencil away and really just see what I've got, all of the little wiggles and all of the things that occurred without me ever really undoing anything, and it's a little unforgiving, but it's also very telling, of what you can actually do. And, just, it really gives you the opportunity, with a mentor, to have little things corrected about your hand position and your hand speed and your just general approach to which lines to do and where to start them and what strategies of tattooing might be.
Yeah, now we just need to make it so that wherever they rest their hand, the stencil starts to blur.
Exactly. And then we get into the mags, which this is an example of it all shaded in with the mags, but I can kind of show you what the mags do real quick. This is where people get a little bit tripped up and they think that the brush set's not working. So I'll take a moment to kind of explain. Here's a 9 Magnum. So it is responsive to the direction. Like, if you hold your Apple Pencil at the maybe similar angle that you might use for tattooing, and you just start making little circles. I've got it zoomed in now, so it looks unrealistically big. But yeah, that's a little bit closer to reality. So yeah, I'm just making my little circles like I would if I was filling in solid color. And if I blow it up a little bit, you can see, there's a lot of grit in that.
Yeah, like pepper shading.
It's very, very peppery, but the way that these were made, if you have a lighter touch, there's actually some magic happening in the source material to where a lighter touch will create a finer, smaller dot, like a lighter, as if you're not letting the needle go in all the way and you're just My hand pressure is way light right now. You can't really tell, but you can see here the difference.
So it's a very long taper needle, and you're able to use
Precise.
pressure to regulate the size of the hole.
Exactly. So, here's a heavy pressure and next to that light pressure, and you can really see the variation that you can achieve with these. And like that pendulum smooth shading that people do for ultra smooth black and gray, you can learn to do that with these as well. So I'll grab like a 13 mag soft edge and just use that same pendulum motion with that lighter touch.
Okay.
And I'll switch my direction.
Got some questions from the chat room. Damon Tesh asks is if you can make it so it twitches and moves around a little bit too.
Absolutely, it's always moving, it's always twitching. It's impossible.
Basically, you mean like a jitter?
So yeah, just you can take it all the way to fully colored in, and then if you want to get really geeky, you can make a healed version of the same tattoo by copying all those layers and then changing some of the settings. So for example, like the white here, instead of being pure bright, I've lowered its opacity down 10% and also set it to soft light instead of when it was set to normal. It was super bright. Like maybe white kind of looks like that in a fresh tattoo after the redness goes away, but we know that white doesn't work like that. So, with someone who has a trained eye and can show you the reality of it, you can replicate it with these tools. Like something like that.
A couple people asking about if they could ask questions, and I would say put your questions in the chat room, and we'll probably do a little Q&A at the end so that you can go through your thing. But people will be able to get their questions answered at the end, so stick around.
Cool. So now we get into the next evolution of Tattoo Flash. So if you're not a Tattoo Smart user already, you may have no idea how far our library of Tattoo Flash stamps has grown. I spend most of my time now working with a global community of artists to create Tattoo Smart packages in every single style and every subject matter, and it's really, really growing huge. This set here that I'll demo right now is a recent launch. It's called USA Military. It's by one of the Ink and Dagger artists, David Izzy Irizarry. And this set is very street shop oriented. It is going to contain all of your, logos, say like Air Force logo. Everything is just a really clean line drawing, like ready to tattoo on a client who maybe doesn't have a lot of time to spend working on a design. So we have everything from all the logos, anchors. We get into a few banner options. We've got 2 different versions of this design that you always see. There's the battle and the sea the land and the sea version here with the flippers. So just all of those typical military tattoos, but then we get into some fun stuff that tends to go with it, like the cemetery and the bullet hole, right? So it's really interesting to see what happens when an artist who's very versed in a specific style or genre just sits down and has to think about how to have 100 different designs that all kind of go together as a set. It's interesting from the tattooer's perspective, but it's also really interesting to think about what it would be like to show a client something like this. When someone comes in, they're like, I want something, I'm a Marine, I kind of just, everything I ever see is the same. You can pull this open and let them see that there's an entire range of things that, maybe the tattooer would know about, but they wouldn't think of in the moment. But just having these visual cues, just like the old days of Tattoo Flash, but now it's, more of a guided tour that's presented to you, by the artist, and it has a huge, basically infinite range by the time this is all, much more complete. And I think we're getting there now. It's getting really, really extensive. This set has a really fun section of like silhouettes here, you know, so you can do something where you've got this right here, but then there's like an explosion behind it, perhaps. Let's see, where's the explosions?
So this is one of the things that makes it very different from traditional Flash. It's not just a digital library of designs, but you can start combining these things in all kinds of different ways. Yeah.
Right. It's a compositional tool, and it's insanely fast to access different ideas and mix and blend styles together, and just, you know, show your client a whole lot of concepts in real time and gauge their reaction to them. And I think that's what's really exciting about it. You know, it's just a totally new way to you know, get through the early stages of the thought process of designing a tattoo. And then we have some sets that are more like interactive design kits. Many of our Procreate brush sets are interactive, interchangeable, adaptable, and quickly accessible for iterating on concepts while your client gives direct feedback. You know, we've got, for example, this watch and compass kit that was made by Matt Bromolo. This has been one of the most popular things that we've put out there. I think that this is one of those that's really easy for people to get into, because we, you know, we've all got this request in our shop constantly, and we're all tired of, you know, seeing the exact same reference photo traced over and over again. So what this does is it lets you grab a watch and then pick your style of hands. Of course, every customer wants it at a different time, right? So you can pop your watch hand on there and then manipulate it into place. And if you're really, really technical, you can get into a little bit of distort here, so you can make it fit just right.
Yep, kind of mimic the perspective of the watch face. Yep.
Exactly, yeah. So that's where it gets really interesting. Maybe something like that. I'd have to mess with it a little bit more to be happy with it, but then we get it down.
Well, if you could match the circular center of it to the ellipse of the watch, if they're the same shape, then the hand would be the right distortion too.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some tricks. I didn't use the trick this time, but yeah, there's definitely some good strategies for that. That's like the subject of a whole other episode, I think. But there's a whole chain section you can choose from. Play around with different combinations of these things. So this is an example of a more kind of interactive kit where you're messing with a set of parts that are meant to kind of go together. And
yeah, you could erase out the part that's going behind the watch and then have just the very end of it come back in front of it.
Exactly.
Yep.
You get it?
So I'm just trying to imagine the number of designs that you must have in the library at this point.
Definitely in the thousands. I don't have an exact number for you, but like I said, it's a new set of 100 almost every week. So it's growing quickly. It's becoming, you know, like it's becoming difficult to have them all, you know, on my iPad, you know, because it's like it's a lot of scrolling, looking for stuff. So you have to start to get a little smart about keeping, you know, a library up at the top of all of your favorite brushes that you want to access all the time, so you're not having to hunt for them too much.
Yep.
you know, from the more street shop oriented stuff that I just showed you, I think it's getting really, really interesting. You know, like this set here from Holly Ellis, which is the second installment in her Girl Head series. So this one came out recently. It's called More Girl Head. And so More Girl Head is very traditional faces and hairstyles that are on the same perspective as the faces. So you can select a hairstyle like this one here, make a new layer, and then go back into the set of expressions, which are all subtly different. And you can grab a face that you like and kind of pull it in line there. And Holly's got some nice little guidelines to help you, you know, but if you want her to be, you know, like super ugly, you have that option, or you can put her where Holly thinks she should go. Right? And you can go through and make your own choices too, right? So, you know, maybe you want to mess around with, ooh, not like that. If you want to mess around with just grabbing the mouth and making it slightly different. And this is a whole kit. And it actually goes with her original set too. So between the two sets, there's quite a few different options, a whole lot of jewelry, little bits here. You know, here's a nice earring that might work. Let's try that. Ooh, I like that. Let's go uniform. So yeah, you know, this could be a tattoo design that's ready to go, or you could, you know, just reduce the opacity of everything and use it as a base for your drawing.
Yep. Yep. So they can be redrawn in your own hand, but you've got a customized, so you haven't just found something on the great Google. Instead, you've put together parts that are intended for this, but that are, no two people are going to put together the same exact expressions.
I guess it's mathematically possible, but you know, you got all these ways that you can mess with things, right? You know, even getting like, you know, you can get pretty crazy here. But and it's also possible, of course, to mix it with other sets, right? So that's where it gets really interesting, as you start to pull elements together that were created by different artists. I want to talk about one more here before we move on from these and start to bring in our guests. This was made by Fran Roca in Brazil. And I actually met Fran at a convention in Moscow. She was traveling the other side of the world just like me, and we spent some time getting to know each other there. And I just absolutely love the sort of Mindy inspired ornamental work that she does. And, you know, coming from Brazil, it's not exactly, you know, like the cultural center of that type of work, but, you know, she's taken the freedom to borrow ornamental traditions from different places. So it's not just strictly, you know, one culture's ornamental, but she's got a nice mix of it. And we worked together to make this set. And, you know, of course, it's got some beautiful, you know, ready to go. Let me make it a little darker. Mandalas. What am I doing? Right, so beautiful mandalas, wide range of those. And then we get into these mandala type flowers where it's like a portion of a mandala, but with like some leafy bits. She's got a whole range of those. We've got some repeater brushes. Just really, really beautiful ornamental type stuff. And this kind of stuff is so popular these days, right? But not everybody is well versed in it or knows you know, what kind of designs work well together. So having this set from Fran really kind of give you superpowers in a way, right? You know, just give you the ability to access a style that you haven't had the time to study. You know, when you've got a client looking for a tattoo and you're in that moment where you have to perform and you need something to look at and get inspired from.
And you don't want to copy somebody else's tattoo.
And yeah, you're not copying anyone else's tattoo here. This stuff is free to use as Flash if you want. You don't have to feel guilty about it. You know, it's just, you know, a way that you can freely design tattoos that have an authentic look. And it's a way that you can kind of start your own exploration of a genre, you know, just like with a reference book, just like with a Flash set. I guess I got one more for you because I'm excited to show you some of the Japanese stuff that we have. We launched 4 sets this summer in the Japanese genre. This one here was done by Elliot Wells, and it's much more stylized. Elliot has a very, you know, he has a lot of strong voice in his work.
Yeah, it works with jazz, right?
He did at one point. I don't think he does now.
Yeah, I believe I'm familiar with his work.
Really, really nice snakes in it. Just really, really great library of snakes, flowers, skulls, some masks. It's just kind of got a whole like snake head kit here. Lots of options, lots of things to play with, some really stylized Hanyas. And then in some of the other sets, we go, you know, to the other side of things like, you know, door set, much more simple, much more traditional. You know, it'd probably be.
So, you know, right now we're looking at you. Yeah.
I wasn't sure. So all those times I was talking about Elliot's set, you weren't seeing it. Sorry. Let me pull it back up. Let's see.
I was admiring the fine resolution of your webcam, though.
Yeah, it is very, very nice. So there's one of the Hanyas I showed. Oops.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, but yeah, I can see what you mean by it. It's very stylized.
Snakehead.
Oh, yeah.
We got some really great full snakes. Here's a different one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of character in those.
So yeah, those are more on the crazy side. And then I was talking about this set here from Door. Door's an Israeli artist. And really, really great. These stencils are just perfect, you know.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. You know, super simple, ready to go. You know, basics of standards of Japanese, you know, and between the 4 sets, there's really, I don't know if there's too many subject matters that we don't have represented a few times. You know, it goes all the way to things like this guy, Hiyotoko, that drunk baby looking guy.
Right, and just like you were saying with Holly's set, you can then redraw this stuff in your own hand, but you've got the proportions right, you've got the characterization right, you've got things looking authentic, and then you've got the option to go back through it and recreate the design in your own hand.
Exactly. With each of the Japanese sets, we included a few templates, back pieces, half sleeves, things like that, just to give you a basis for the backgrounds and some ideas to work off of. And maybe this is just something you would show to a client too, very quickly. Which actually reminds me, and there's another product that I really wanted to show today that I completely forgot to prepare for, but we have this set, and I think this is a really interesting set. It's very popular actually, but this one's called Protoplast, and it's a really giant set of human body templates that are output in multiple different body types. So you have your mesomorph, ectomorph, endomorph, and obese. So just to run through, let's see if I can run through a series here. I'll just kind of grab a few. So here's our obese, more obese woman. So, you know, there's 4 different ranges here, and depending on which one might match your idea of your prospective client or your actual client, even, if you were looking for something to kind of compose on top of that would represent the type of body that you'd be working on. We have this, huge set just posed, and then they get into the body parts where you've got, just a single arm ready to draw on top of. And then we have that same arm output from 4 different views. So you can do a full sleeve sketch. This one's called Protoplast. There's so much more. I mean, I could go all night, but I think that maybe we should go ahead and bring in Damon Conklin. What do you think?
Sounds good to me. Yeah. This is it's a lot to take in, but my head is kind of like trying to encompass the idea of like thousands and thousands of designs. Like if you've got a wall full of flash,
Right.
How many sheets have you got? Maybe 100 sheets, and they've got 12, 15 designs, so you got maybe 1,500, 2,000 designs on your walls, and you've already got that, and it's really just starting out, I imagine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're just getting started. Hey, Damon.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well.
Damon, cheers. Good to see you.
What's up, guy? Good to see you, man.
This is exciting.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
I'm really happy that you could, sort of represent this a little bit, because you are, I don't want to say an old school tattooer, but you're definitely, my generation, and you came up using analog tools and learned tattooing more or less the traditional way. And yet you have fully embraced the digital world because of the clear advantages. And I was hoping maybe you could first just let us know what to you some of those advantages are.
Well, man, there's tons of advantages. First of all, I mean, I was always kind of knew the computer revolution was coming to tattooing. I'm going to take these headphones off because it sounds weird with them on for some reason. We'll see how that goes. Let me know if that causes any problems. Does that cause any weirdness?
You sound exactly the same. So if it sounds better to you, then yes. All right.
Okay, so yeah, I used to make video game graphics for a living way back, like in the early 90s. So I'm not completely separated from computers by birth, but I know that when new times come, you either embrace the new times and you enjoy the fruits of that new time, or you turn your back on them and they turn their back on you. And I like to grow as an artist. I like to be in touch with the world around me. And so, yeah, there were some things, I mean, I'll have to admit, I held on to the coil machine for a long time, loyal to the coil and all that kind of stuff. But I just saw too many like 1 and 2 year tattooers kicking my ass. And I'm like, okay, they can't all be that much better than me, right? And and eventually some friends started showing me some stuff. And again, being in touch with the world around me turned my attention when my own stubbornness was trying to work against me. And which is why I believe in working with people and being in community as a tattooer. But yeah, this iPad, you got a whole art studio anywhere. You can take it anywhere in the world. I've had this thing in Romania and Serbia and Turkey, all over the place, and your whole art studio is in there. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's I'm a little bit later to adopt Procreate because I'm just so comfortable with Photoshop, being a 25-year Photoshop user. And, I've got the big Starship Command, large, Cintiq tablet and everything. And it's nice, right? But, the opportunity to just sit with the family with the movie on and use the iPad to do that, the very same job, have a lot of the same capabilities and some that you don't have with Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great tool, man. I use Photoshop off and on throughout the years, but this, man, for tattooing, the amount of I went probably 15 years without doing a solid color composition for a tattoo. And I always took it for granted that I'd be able to wing it and figure it out and all this kind of stuff. And with this thing, I can just color drop stuff in real quick. I can take 2 minutes and at least get a rough color idea of what I'm doing with something before I actually do it. And why not take a chance in 2 minutes on a screen instead of, potentially messing up someone's back or,
So do you feel like you are able to, do you feel like you're able to, I'm sorry, I just saw a text roll in, and it crossed my mind, but I'm sorry. We're gonna have to skip that one because I just had a short circuit.
No problem. I get those.
Hopefully I'll pick it back up again. What we were just talking about before that, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was rambling about being able to do quick color compositions.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so my question was, do you feel like you're able to experiment with things that are a little more daring, and that you're doing things with color on skin that you wouldn't have done if you don't have a chance to audition them digitally?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I did stuff today while tattooing that were direct benefits of me having the latitude for exploration that I have with the in digital work directly influenced what I was doing not 2 hours ago on a tattoo.
Yeah, the piece that you there was an outer space piece you posted maybe 1 or 2 days ago with that triangle.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, I can really see how your tattoo work, it looks a lot like your Procreate work. It's crazy that way. You know? And I mean, that's why I asked you that, because your color use is, it doesn't look like anybody else's color work.
Thanks, I think. Yeah.
Well, I mean that in the most, in the most positive way, because that's a hard thing to achieve.
Yeah. I guess I've always been lucky that I have a strong sense of personality, and that comes out in my work. But yeah, it does tend to emulate whatever secondary media I'm using at the time. When I was using markers, it tends to emulate that. When I was oil painting, it tended to emulate that more. But I just feel a really strong connection between how much digital drawing has to offer to my tattooing, just in the amount of changes and versions I can go through in a rough sketch format at the very beginning, like laying the very foundations of the idea all the way into coloring and advanced rendering things. I can try them all here. Even like Russ was saying with the needle sets and there's just so many ways to replicate what I'm actually doing in a tattoo on here. It feels like cheating sometimes, like I have an unfair advantage,
Well, you know what? Everybody else now has, getting unfair advantages too. Just like you were saying about the new tattoo equipment. You need to keep up with these unfair advantages. That's when it becomes unfair, when you don't have access to it. But if you have access, in some ways you almost have to at least try it and see how it fits.
Yeah.
So then at some point you went from being just a Procreate user to creating designs for others. You've done quite a bit of that, right?
Yeah. You've known me a while, Guy, and I tend to dive head over heels into things. One day I'm like, oh, screw that, I'm never going to use that. The next day I'm like, oh, I just discovered this thing, it's really cool. And then 8 months later I'm teaching a class on it. But I don't know. I fell in love with it, and I like to do as much as I can with it. And then when the benefit of being a person that dives into things is to be able to share that. And as far as like making a stamp set, when Russ got a hold of me for that, I was like, I've always thought of images that way anyway, where like I'll draw random little images, and I always think of them as pieces in a puzzle that can be put together later. And then I might draw something else. I'm like, that's another piece that goes with that piece, and so to have them all like in a format as like little brushes, I'm like, this is a game changer. This is the computer actually catching up with something my mind has been wanting to do for a long time.
So what does it feel like when you see tattoos that people did using your stamps?
It's cool, Guy, because they always do things that I wouldn't do with them. I mean, the drawing touches that they put in are things that like I may not have thought of. Color applications and concepts completely, you know what I mean? Like it gives me a brand new ideas about ideas that I've already had that went a different direction. It would be like being at the center of the time multiverse control box and being able to back up and go see alternate versions of yourself. You know, like I'm a sci-fi guy, so that kind of stuff always really, you know, like it feels like I'm manipulating the timeline when I see someone else's version of this idea. It's cool.
Alternate reality.
Yeah, it's alternate realities, man. I love it.
Nice. So are you going to show some of your stamps here?
Yeah, totally. Let's see here. What is the best way for me to do that? Could I zoom in from a phone and that points right down to my iPad? Could that be a thing?
Exactly like we did yesterday or the day before, but yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, cool. I'm prepared to do that.
Cool. While you're doing that, I'll read from the chat room here. We've got Inky Metal says, thanks a lot. Very interesting demonstration of the software. We've got, let's see, Isnard Barbosa from, I think he's originally from Brazil. He's in Dublin now, though. Says, very educational.
That guy's a badass. I love his work.
He is a badass. Agreed wholeheartedly. I almost fanboyed out on him on the Facebook. Joe Capobianco says, very unique style. I think that was when you were showing off, when Russ was showing off the Elliott set. We've got, actually a couple questions maybe for Russ. Oh, I guess we'll do questions about the Cheyenne set at the end. Okay. Let's see. Steffi says, hello from Germany. And then we've got Christian España from Spain. Old World looks super good when you select the obese one for one of your clients. LOL. Oh, I don't know. I forgot where that was from. And then let's see. We've got Stacy Simmons. They still use Photoshop. Still finds it easier than Procreate. Maybe the transition was a little bit of a leap still. Here's a question. From Mauricio. I think I got that. Okay, hi guys. What's the right resolution for the canvas to have an accurate results when using the Cheyenne brushes? Damon, there's a question, and then I'll let Damon get set up.
It's 300 DPI canvas size that we want to have for the Cheyenne brushes to be the accurate size.
All right. Well, let's see. We're rolling.
I'm just over here on design made with Damon's set here. So I composed this skull with a rose and a rosebud. And so I think there's 5 different Damon stamps in this piece.
And that took you 2 or 3 minutes to put together?
Yeah, I put it together while you guys were chatting. And I've already started kind of doing a value study on the skull. Starting to have some fun just using the Magic Spit Shader brush.
Funny enough, I was playing with Brad's set, which I think we're going to be talking about later, and I threw in just a simple heart stamp of mine, and then just started coloring and going off. So there's a picture of that.
Oh wow, cool.
I guess we can. Let me.
Damon, before we get too much farther, the camera that's on your iPad, could you change it so that it's the horizontal way, or?
Well, let's see. I don't know.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Oh, it was good.
Yeah, I don't know. This may or may not end up happening.
That's great. That's great.
Did
perfect.
It say? Okay, cool.
Is there a way to get closer though? Right now your iPad fills roughly half the screen.
Let's see.
Getting there.
Yeah, I I don't know. That might. Well,
You're doing
Do you
great. That's
have
great.
do you have like a shoebox that you could put your iPad on or something like that?
well, I don't think I'd be able to get my hand in between
That's
the
as
Ah,
big as
gotcha.
that's as big as you're gonna get it. That looks
Okay.
great.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, when it's full screen, it should be great.
Okay.
All right, so Gabe, now on the main screen, I'm just seeing, I don't know if that's what the audience is seeing right now.
No, everyone controls their own video. I'm gonna close the two cameras though, so just the two iPads drawing are gonna be what's up.
Okay.
So yeah, we got the two iPads going out here. This looks great.
Fun. Make a bunch of layers so I can do different things. And then, yeah, just picking through stuff, you know, we throw a little heart in the hand, make sure that's on another layer so I can change the sizes. And yeah, maybe we'll make that just to give it a little bit of visual interest.
Your voice is real quiet.
Oh, that's because I'm far away from the my one thing, probably. I wonder how much closer I can get. Let's see here. I don't know if that helps any.
Oh, I see what's going on. We're looking at your screen upside down, so.
Oh, is it upside down? Shit. That I don't know how to fix.
Sometimes it's hard to convince your phone which way to look. But yeah, Russ is just cruising. You can tell that he's very familiar with these tools.
Is it still oriented correctly?
Yeah, that's great. If you
Yeah.
push it over to center.
And now up just a tiny bit. Now you're centered. Perfect.
Cool. Awesome.
So do you ever find that clients expect, like once you start showing them color renderings and things like that, that becomes sort of an expectation? Do you often keep these more or less just to yourself, or only let them see when it's time to start tattooing?
I like to keep the magic behind the curtain as much as possible.
Yeah.
If your color rendering isn't really that good, if it's more of something that you just did for your own information to help you as a value study, I think it's dangerous to show it to the client, because if it's right on the edge of,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
where they would assume that this is what the tattoo is going to look like, then they can get really spooked by that. So it might not be a bad idea to kind of, you know, pull that back and keep it for yourself, or you know, just I guess, you know, give them enough confidence by showing them your more completed work, so they'll know the difference between the sketch that you did and what their tattoo is going to look like. I had that problem really early on when I started doing digital, and it actually was my best attempt at making it look good when I wasn't as experienced, and my client was freaked out, and I realized that, like, you know, that's not normal. Usually I show them, you know, just whatever I was able to cobble together on tracing paper with a little like value study quickly, and they're totally happy to take the ride. But, you know, once I started getting into digital, I realized that, you know, that
It changes people's expectations. Yeah, it's sort of a different psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it looks like Damon's got what, 4 different elements put together there.
Yeah, you can definitely compose something very quickly with these tools. And I think one of the main benefits is in that client consultation setting, you know, where you're literally just, you know, a lot of times I find that my consultations are an opportunity to discover an idea together. You know, I think it's a lot more interesting when they don't know exactly what they're going to get until we have our conversation.
Totally.
You know, and I want to feed off of what I show them and what excites them and what, you know, it's a lot more fun that way for me. But being able to, you know, sketch on top of a photo of them or drop one of these, you know, images in rather than, you know, having to, you know, struggle to kind of quickly sketch some imagery that I'm not as familiar with. I mean, it's one thing if you know, only do the same style all the time, if everyone knows that you just do roses, and of course you're going to get really fast at drawing roses and you're going to be more comfortable with that. But when you're, you know, working in a diverse range of subject matters and you're trying to cater to a wide range of clients, like there's just no better way to work than, you know, starting with a library like this that you can access like super quick, you know. It's a game changer for sure.
No doubt about it. Well, and the thing is the library of I mean, the larger like Tattoo Smart library of stamp brushes is pretty comprehensive. Like there's a lot of stuff there. So in some of them, I just have things that are things I don't really like to try to draw. And I can get one of those out and throw it into a design that includes that. And by the time I've ended up finishing the design, I've changed it enough that, you know, I still feel pretty good about it. My customer still sees it as something, as a creation of mine for them. It's different than what anybody else would make. And I just saved a shitload of time and freed the drawing up from all the things I might have done wrong because, you know, I'm not good at drawing watches.
Yeah, or let's just say the, you know, like the Japanese set, even if you're going to draw almost the entire design on your own, but, you know, there's a cascade of cherry blossoms going through it. You can save yourself 2 hours just using the cherry blossom stamp. And of course,
100%.
you know, you always have the option of hand tracing over that later on and giving it your own feel. But just in terms of getting that initial layout down and making sure that those blossoms aren't wonky, because it's very easy to make them wonky if you're not careful. And it can be a slow process.
There's also just the option of changing it on the skin, you know, just laying down 100 of the same cherry blossom and then like finding something to do and not following the lines exactly the same. So
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I actually love doing that kind of stuff. Clients are super impressed with that kind of stuff, and it's fun. I don't know. It's like getting to break the rules and getting rewarded for it. It's fun.
The stencil is merely a suggestion.
Yeah.
So let's say I didn't get to see the digital rendering that you did for that outer space piece that you posted the other day, but I imagine you did a full color rendering of that one.
Well, I did. Let me see if I can find it. I did a really ugly comp. And if I can find it, I don't mind showing. Yeah, I was just, it's funny because I was looking at it today and I don't know where I put it.
It's kind of funny because sometimes when you do a color rendering, you see, okay, this is exactly how I'm not going to do it.
So it's just, so I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's just, but yeah, it's like, it's really slapped together. And I don't know if I'd feel super comfortable showing just every client that. But it gave me enough information and it kind of got me into thinking about the way I wanted color to flow through the piece and how I wanted color to transition from one to another, where I wanted the brightness to be and where I wanted the darkness to be. And that was all I kind of needed to get out of it. And I did that. So
yeah, but yeah, this particular drawing is not very tattooish at all.
Not at all. Oh, no.
And so if you showed it to a client and said it's going to be this, not really at all an accurate representation of how it would look as a tattoo.
It can be very confusing to a client that way. As a matter of fact, I showed it to my client and he was a little confused, but he trusted me. I could tell he was looking at it like, and then that's, that's what it ended up looking like.
And yeah, I freaking love that piece.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, it's super fun. Super fun.
I'm showing the tattoo now. Looks great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And so, yeah, that's coming together nice too. And so you've got all of like 7 minutes in that or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take long.
So yeah, this is definitely a nice transitional place between Flash and completely custom drawing. And whether it's because you're still developing your own drawing style and you're trying to make better tattoos than you're currently able to draw, or if you're just wanting to expedite your workflow and find ways of being more efficient and getting your designs ready faster. And you've got the option of using them verbatim, and you've got the option of redrawing. And like the piece that Russ is doing right now, I could totally imagine if I were to slap another layer over that and redraw it in my own hand, it would still be a really great perspective on the skull, and the flower layouts would still be really nicely flowing. But coming from my own hand, it would still look like my own drawing. So, this is a lot of ways to get away from either using straight up Flash or just simply looking at Google references and doing things based on that. The heyday of Flash, remember when people, when you could reliably make a 10-sheet set and sell it, sell 100 copies.
Oh, I came up off of that stuff, man. I had so much fun.
Yeah. How many sets did you do, Damon?
Somewhere around 13 or.
Wow.
Well, and the thing is I also thought of it like a graffiti artist. Like when I sell these sets, I'm getting up on walls. You know what I mean? And and what's rad is later on in my career, long after I'd wasted any money I made off of that stuff, I would still run into people and I'd be like, "Oh my God, your work is really sick, man. You're selling that book. That's dope." And someone like Mike DeVries would be like, "Dude, I came up doing your Flash. Here, have one." And I'm like, "Oh my God," and you end up making a friend, and all because of a connection of a thing on a wall that, just a wacky little drawing on a page of wacky little drawings.
Well, that was a different era, having Flash on the walls, and now we're in this era. And if you were to draw a set of Flash of 10 sheets on paper and try to sell them at conventions, I don't know how that would do these days.
Not well. Most likely.
Some shops probably still have designs on the walls, and some of them might still buy it. But
I mean, it's funny, man, because I had a young guy, guest artist, this kid whose name is Flash, ironically, and he was. We were talking about how a lot of the younger generation of these kids love to draw Flash and paint Flash, and they're not doing it because they're going to make money. They just love the history of tattooing, and they love to trade these paintings that they do with each other, and it's just fun, and I'm like, oh man, getting to work with some young people and to relight that fire of the fun of it all is such a cool thing to be able to do.
Well, I just remember that when I was apprenticing, it was expected that I was going to do 10 sheets of Flash, like in the first month.
Yeah.
And then I had to color a bunch. Before that, I had to color a bunch of Flash, and you had all these sheets of Kerry Barba Flash and Cliff Raven and
Rollo and
Oh man, yeah.
yeah, good stuff. And all of it was just, you know, shaded line drawings that, you know, he'd gotten these oversized Xerox copies of, and it was my job to color them. And man, that was an important education. You know, I like the way that I shade my tattoos now. Really, I picked up a lot of that from that Cliff Raven set.
Yeah, I bet.
And then like that, Russ's drawing becomes color. I blinked and missed that process.
That'll happen with Russ sometimes.
Let's see.
Tommy Lee Wentner says hello.
Hello.
We had a great conversation earlier today.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that one. That was a good one. It must be very early in the morning or very late at night for Tommy. I'm not sure which.
Well, let's see. It's 6 hours later than it is for you guys, I think.
Yeah, he's 3 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
The night's young.
Oh man, I remember being young and being up late. Young, like when I was 49, you know.
Yeah, I remember like the last time I was up till 3 in the morning was last night, working on Christmas packaging for people. And the previous time before that was the night before that. It's a party, I'll tell you what. It's a glamorous life.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
I'm not complaining. I'm glad people are buying stuff.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, Russ is really getting in some color gradients and so Russ, can you explain how you're able to color that without obscuring the outline? And
Sure.
You're not going outside the lines either.
Yeah, let me do a quick demo here on a process that helps. So obviously coloring in a different layer, and I've got that layer underneath all the lines and the black work. I'll make a new layer and can look at some strategies for coloring in a flower really quickly. So one thing you can do is just flat fill. Just pick something that's in the neighborhood of the color that you think you want to be in. So like I'll just grab this random red color, and you can just drop colors into things on Procreate. And I have to mention my lines, I set these to reference, which you do by selecting your line layer, tapping it, and hitting the word reference.
Okay.
So it's set to reference, which means when I use any of some of the other tools like this color drop feature, it knows to look at the line layer to see the edge. So I can be on a totally different layer and I can just drop a color in.
Okay. So by setting it to reference, it will continue to influence any other layers as long as they're inside that rose.
It's going to look at the layer you set as reference, you know, for the information of where the lines are. Now, you know, there's some problems with this. You know, there's this little kind of like haloing effect around some of the lines, and maybe I could make some adjustments and figure that out, but I might just be stuck with it because of the way the lines were that I'm working with. But you know, that color is there now, you know, and it's in its own layer. So I can even go, now that I've even put some color there, I can go back to like my spit shade set blender brush here, and I can start to pull that color around, you know, and kind of just like get a more like watercolory effect with it, just using that smudge tool. And that'll get rid of all that little haloing stuff. So I can work really quickly like that and start to make some stuff happen, and then kind of go back in with the other spit shader, like the magic spit shader here, and kind of pop color in. Just have to be careful, you know, not going outside my lines. Or another strategy would be to make some selections. So you can use this tool here for selection. Go in there and you can trace around an area and do a freehand selection where you're drawing in what you want the selection to be. That's another way. It's probably a good strategy in some cases, because then it just sort of locks in and you can freely paint without going outside of it. That's another way. And then
So Russ, just out of curiosity, can you select inverse the way you can in Photoshop in
You sure
Procreate?
can. Yeah, so you could do, let's say if you just want to select only the rows quickly, you could use that freehand selection, draw around
Well,
the entire outside of
I
the
was
row.
actually thinking instead of that, you could use the automatic selection and just tap anywhere outside the rows and then
Sure.
select inverse.
Right, you
And then
can,
you've selected the rows.
a good strategy too. Yeah, let me try that. So now it's invert. And then now you're coloring inside the rows. Yep. Well, that made it into the skull too, because I wasn't as careful as I could have been, but it'll definitely help you on that edge there. Now, you know, here's where it really gets fun. So once you've got a color in, like I wasn't very particular about what red I chose there. Now I can get in there and adjust that color by alpha locking it. So tap and then turn it to alpha lock. Now I'm in a subsequent layer, I'm only going to be able to affect what is colored in the layer that's been alpha locked. So I can get in there with, say, something a little bit more reddish. And I can, oh, that's not working. It's supposed to be alpha locked, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do that a different way. Rather than alpha lock, I think I'll try clipping mask. What will that do? Damn it.
What kind of mask? I'm sorry.
I'm getting confused.
Okay.
Pressure of the live situation. Let me mess with this here. Let's see. So the layer above and then set to clipping mask. That should do what I want. Yeah. Okay. So back up just a bit. So I have my layer where I painted that random orange color. And now I've just basically, like, you know, want to introduce another hue. You know, that orange by itself is not quite enough for me. So I grabbed something a little bit more cool red and put a new layer above and then tapped it and set it to clipping mask. So now when I paint in that new layer, it's going to apply only to the layer below it. I'm sure you've seen this in Photoshop too, Guy, right?
No, I've never used that.
So maybe I need to do something a little more dramatic so you can see what it's really doing. Let me grab this green here so you can see. Okay, well, now we're starting to see some of the features of these spit shading brushes too. They're set to some settings that behave a little bit differently than maybe a standard brush. So let me grab like a just a regular airbrush so you can see what it's doing. Let's see. Okay, yeah. All right, so regular airbrush, clipping mask. You see what's happening there? It's only applying this green to what was below it.
And is it only applying the green basically where the red is, right? Not even in the space.
Yeah, where that original orange was actually.
Okay, so basically it's just decoloring the existing color.
Exactly. So that's a great tool. So you can just kind of flat fill something and then you can affect it later. And another thing you can do is, you know, just picking a random color there, you can of course go up to here to the magic wand tool and do a hue adjustment, which you can focus on just the entire layer and you can change the color. So I always like to keep each object's color in a different layer so I can go back and adjust colors infinitely.
Yeah.
You can pull the saturation back or increase it and change the brightness, darkness, lightness, all that. And a new feature in Procreate is you can do that same type of thing, but just for the pencil. So now I can do an adjustment where based on
so
that.
basically your brush becomes a hue saturation tool, but very selectively.
Exactly. Right.
Nice.
Now you're just really into like infinite control world here.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, that's a few of the strategies that I find super useful.
Nice. And let's take a look at what Damon's doing here. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, starting to get some nice shine in there. Got a drop shadow going. And I see that you've also gone through a couple different color variations.
Oh yeah.
And you're probably, what, 15 minutes tops into this?
Sure.
Yeah, you get to adjust the shadow. Yeah, and this is, you know, for anyone doubting the advantage of going digital. And I know it can look very intimidating to see all these tools. And the thing that I want to say is you don't have to learn them all in order to get functional. In fact, you don't even have to learn 1% of it in order to get functional. But the important thing is that every time you sit down and you do a digital rendering of any kind, that you try to just learn a little bit more. And eventually you'll get up to speed.
Once I learned how to use a few pens, erase, undo, and then do this little liquefy trick here. So I learned that I could adjust things, you know. Once I saw the amount of adjusting I could do, I only had a few tools in my palette, but it was enough to make me really want to dive in. And the other tricks, you learn them as you go, and you talk to other people who use the tool, and you know.
Yeah, and then of course you see things on the menu and you get curious about them, and then one day you actually have that extra 10 minutes and you're like, okay, I'm going to try this.
Totally.
And it might not make sense at first. You might end up having to, you know, then do a little bit of research, watch a YouTube video about it, and then before you know it, you're like, oh man, that is so cool. I definitely have to start using it. I'll tell you what though, Procreate needs to come up with redo on new layer, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
It would be such a no-brainer, right? Because they remember your moves, and everybody makes that mistake, including very experienced people. You've done 20 minutes work on the wrong freaking layer, undo, undo, undo all the way back, and then you click redo on new layer, and boom. There you have your work.
I've thought that 1,000 times without saying it that clearly. That's perfect. Yeah.
Well, in fact, even just redo on new layer. That's all. That's all you really need to know. Let's send a memo to the Procreate people. Redo on new layer, please. And I take it you always make a point of keeping your line drawing on its own layer. Then, of course, you have real easy stencil art that's ready to go.
Yeah, and usually I'll actually make a second copy of the line work because there is no redo on new layer. That way, when I filled in for 20 or 30 minutes on my line work layer when I didn't mean to, I still have an extra line work layer sitting around.
Right. Yep.
What do we say? We get Brad Wooten in here.
Yeah. I'd love to see what Brad has to say about his tools. And Russ gave me a little bit of a peek into some of them, and some of it's jaw dropping. And since then, I've had some kind of cool ideas about them, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. Even a way of creating a 3D relief effect that I don't even think was intended with the tools, but start thinking about these things.
Right.
Okay, so real quick, Brad's coming in. Make sure that there's no, if you're not playing it in the background, if there's any echo, we'll deal with it real quick. But Brad, if you're watching in the background, you're gonna want to shut it off. Cool. There I am. I can have a conversation with myself sometime. Hi, Gabe.
All right, I see Brad's iPad. How's it going, Brad?
Hey.
Thanks for joining us.
Wait, so Brad, we're still not through the clear yet. We have 2 mics from your end, it seems. So you're going to want to, and you need to do your horizontal thing.
I think he's already got it horizontal, at least like
Nope, his camera view needs to go horizontal. Oh, there you go. Perfect. And then you want to turn on one of your mics, whichever the good mic is. Brad?
How does that?
Perfect.
Y'all check this out.
All right.
Brad, what's up, buddy?
Brad?
Hello.
Russ,
Hey.
did you turn your camera off? Oh, there
I'm back.
You're back.
Oh, I know what's going on.
Nice to meet you, Brad.
You too. I don't see you there. I guess I will
You don't see
eventually.
me?
Yeah, no, that's all right though, huh?
Sometimes you, oh yeah, I don't know where I don't know my video turned off. Oh, my host has disabled it, it says. Okay.
So what's going on?
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
Oh, well, we're going to take a look at your set of tools, and gosh, it's you have such a unique digital design process to begin with. And for anyone who has the Biomech Encyclopedia, Brad's got a chapter in there where he's showing his Photoshop method. And so I guess kind of what you've done here with your Tattoo Smart tools is you've not mimicked your process, because this is a different process entirely, but you've taken some of the look of what you get from your normal process and come up with some tools.
Yeah,
that sort of
it usually works by, oh, I'm hearing my own voice way over there. It usually works by, I usually go through 2 different layers to kind of do this like op art sort of special effect. Kind of like, let me pull it up here. This type of thing, you know. But I found a way to bake it into a single brush so you can just stroke through it, you know. But you can also use those brushes to do it the way that I like. I like to use it both ways, really, though. Y'all hear me here?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. So what does this new set consist of? If you could sort of give a rundown. I think for some people, the idea of these digital tools, it's hard to even wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what exactly are we even talking about here?
Well, I guess I can just start down here from the beginning, really. This is like everything that this brush makes comes out with a hard edge. So if I just take Proto here and do this, you can see if I zoom in here, everything's going to have a pretty, make sure I'm still lined up here. There's not even any anti-aliasing going on, which I really prefer if you're going to print something out of a thermofax. It's very thermofax friendly to not have any of those sort of uncertain grays going on and adding
the fuzzy edges are
this diffusion
not helpful at all.
it just tends to bleed, you know. Have you ever used a threshold filter in Photoshop?
Not sure.
Right. Well, it does kind of the same thing. Here, let me go to a skull over here. I'll show you the way that at least I use this. Here we go. Here's something that I made here. So what this will do is I actually have this arranged down here, but you can see here. Let's see here. Go to liquify. You can see some of those changes take place. The values and the actual patterns are separated by their layers, and you can change one individually from the other. So if I come over back to the skull and move that around, you see how it's kind of disconnected from that. Yet these lines are swelling and shrinking according to the values that the skull needs it to be.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I originally started thinking about this because, I don't know, like maybe 7 years ago, I was like working on some Biomech kind of stuff. And is it Giger or Geiger? I never got that. I never got Giger. I never got that straight. But he would use stencils a lot of times. And I was looking at some of my, like, the vertebrae and all this kind of thing going on. And I wanted to approach it from a more like parametric sort of sense. I knew I wanted this like longer structure. I knew I wanted it to be divided into a certain amount of ribbings or something like that with, you know, maybe every other one is there's something else different happening, something kind of along those lines. But I wanted to be able to create that thing and then slide sliders to actually change it as I was looking at it, instead of having to predetermine all those things before I went into it.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me just like...
When you say parametric, you like the idea of having parameters you can adjust.
Yeah. I'm not really quite sure the difference between generative and parametric, but they're pretty close. I'm just going to pop, let's see. Let me just use some of these brushes as they are. You know, they can be used straight out. This is just sort of the baked in version. You can kind of see here how they actually, there's this width changing effect happening here. And there's about 48 different versions of this of these brushes going on. Here I have, this is something that's a little bit more, some of them I really prefer to use straight out of the box this way, and other ones I really like to use with the splitting of the layers and having the actual pattern of the brush sort of underneath as a substrate, and then above that layer is the actual value of your normal painting, you know. And but here, let's see, I've designed, let's see, I'm never good at that. There we go. Start a new layer. So this hexagonal one I designed to be able to stack between different sizes. So I can go from this, anything with a blue dot on here is a small version of that pattern, and then green is medium, red is large. So I just went from a small hex to the medium hex, and you see how they stack and line up like that. Surprisingly, you can't just double the size of the actual grain pattern in Procreate. It just doesn't work that way. So I had to go in and make individual stamps for these so that they would line up. There's a large version.
That is just so cool.
But then you can combine across these styles too as well. Like, let's say, let me use the large dot.
Right, as long as it's laid out on that same hexagonal grid, any of it will work.
Yeah, and it's all built into, all layout together that way. Let's see, this is a strange one, Nano. I really like this. Here's a little bit more clear view of it right down here. You know, and I'm using these, like, there's the line versions of all of these. You can come in and you can also come in and use the more paneled versions of these too as well. And you can get some accidental cool things going on in between some of these. Sometimes it's very chaotic, but if you discover something, you can kind of go backwards through it and find out exactly how it happened, and then put them together in a clean way a lot of times. Let's see, I had here, let's go here. I actually have this one set. Let me change the background here to something like a gray. How about that? I'll come up here, delete that, do a new layer. And let's pick a black. Now I have these set up so that, let's see what this gives me here. No, I want that one right there. You know, you can, I just had those brushes on quick draw over there, so I can go through that. I can also take that same exact brush and just change the color. And you can just really dig into it, you know. Let me pick that top brush here again, and black is fine, why not? We've already got that. Now let me pick this color and the right side over there and open that back up. You can just really, really, really quickly generate some, like, a lot of complexity in there. It is a sort of, it's like schmoozy, though, by the way it works. You can kind of see how some of these over here, there's actually, the way that it expands as you actually add the value into this, it's stretching, it's adding more this way than this way. So some of the shapes kind of get soft. And, you know, if I was just designing this from not having any reference point or background of work, I probably wouldn't have it this way, but I do like the ability a lot of the times for some of those, for the more organic ones especially, to be a little bit more schmoozy. And let's see.
Schmoozy, eh? You just mean flexible, kind of one.
Yeah,
rubbery.
well, I guess what I mean is, like, you know, each one of these diamond shapes is not originating, it's not growing out. Here you are, over here, you're over here.
Right, yeah.
In all directions this way.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, when Russ was showing me this earlier, he was showing me this sort of brain coral pattern, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it would be interesting to, so you lay down some of that brain coral pattern in black. Then on a separate layer, you go a little bit lighter with the same pattern in white. But then that layer, you shift it up, or maybe up and to the right a couple of pixels. Suddenly you've got a relief effect.
Yeah.
Have you tried that yet?
I don't know. Let me see what that does here. It'll do something probably very much like that, at least. Let's see here. So we go down to some of those. I'm going to pick the big boy here. Now let's pick out something lighter here. Do a new layer. Oops. Kind of already does. You see how it's growing inside of itself over here. But then we can take that and move it over this way. So it'll do exactly what you're talking about there.
But like if you also touch down on it lighter so that the lines are thinner than the black lines.
Yeah, you could do that.
They're all contained within the black lines, but obviously shifted just a little bit upward.
Let's just duplicate the first layer and then shift it a little bit like this. And then change its color to something lighter, like.
Oh, wait, sorry, Russ. I need to spotlight you.
I'm just trying to figure out how to do what Guy's suggesting, but.
I'm sorry.
It's like this sort of effect here.
Well, I think that the idea is that because when you push down with higher pressure, the lines end up thicker, right? So with the lower layer, the black layer, you go down with more pressure and make it thicker. Yep. And with the white layer that's going to be above it, you put down it with less pressure, so it goes a little bit thinner. Then you shift that up a couple of pixels, and it looks like a highlight, a relief effect, highlight on your black stuff. Right. I don't know. I'll have to just try it myself because I'm really intrigued by these tools.
Right. I think this is about as close as I can get to what you're thinking, at least like right now, at least while staying within that.
Yeah.
Within this zone of the black here. That's pretty cool there.
That's very close to what I was visualizing. I'm gonna try this myself.
This is something that you can do. So that original way that I worked by splitting it off into 2 layers, this is a good example of that, because what I have here is, let me just show you what it looks like normally. So I just grabbed, you can take any value painting that you have here and basically throw it on hard mix mode here, and then have one of, here, I'll show you what my layer looks like beneath that. This is the substrate. This is like the grain pattern that I built into all these brushes. This one specifically is the proto one. But I can take this and grab this one right here, uniform, and you see what this will do. You know, I can kind of
no matter what size or position, it continues to represent the values of the source image.
Yep. Yeah, well, the hard mix one right above that. You can probably go in here and change it from hard mix to.
What is that? What mode are we using there?
Hard mix for the top layer for your like actual like painting. You know,
okay.
I really love doing it this way because that means I can use any brush that I want to actually create that value layer. You know, straight out of the box, I like to use the patterns just to create kind of more simple patterns, kind of like in let's see, this guy over here. So let's see, for this one, all I did was, let me reselect this layer and clear this layer. Can I have it clear? No, it wants me to do this. There we go. And how about we just use the one that I've already got in my hand here. All right, and I can do this, and then I can actually move it around inside of it. And because it's in a clipping layer and it's looking downward from that, you know, I can just really do anything I want with this inside of here. And if you wanted to do something like what you were thinking of, maybe like duplicating this,
couldn't you just touch down it lightly with an eraser maybe to lighten those lines, to thin them up?
To thin them down? Yeah, actually, let me show you that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the first one over here, and I'm going to come in with it and do this. But what if part of this is too thick right there? So what I'll do is actually hold down on my eraser to select my current brush to the eraser, and I'll go one brush down. And what this is an inverted version. And so what that means is to be able to thin the patterns back
erasing
out.
the space in between.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing is you can't move it or liquefy it before you do any of that stuff. So I like to do all this first. I mean, if you do need to do all that, that's what that other method is for with the 2 layers. But then you can come do whatever you want, you know. And come back to this, it's already selected, and go back to the eraser again. Just schmooze it around, you know. Let's see. I use that for at least the clothing on here, and there's tattoos in there as well. Here's actually this one right here. The clipping mask is just so lovely. You can really, all I did was like just take this outline and select in the inside and fill it with white. And then every layer above that, you just add a clipping mask. And it doesn't, what I really love about the clipping mask is that you don't lose any information that's outside of that at least. You know, so I can keep on coming back into this and grabbing this tattoo pattern and keep dragging it around. Oh, that's fine. There's another one here. I was just using the brushes more straight up as they come. So, well, out of the box. You know, I really do, and if you're okay with like doing something that's just, you're not exactly trying to tattoo, the brushes can be really fun for that. You can see here, like, you probably couldn't actually tattoo any of this. Very, very unlikely. You could do these, I could certainly do these leaves like that. But if you reduce the transparency, you can actually, it'll produce some interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to tattoo an effect like that, you'd want to use a larger grain for those, both the halftone pattern and that pattern in the leaves. If it were half as complex, then you start getting to a point where it could be tattooable.
Here's another design I made with the brush set. This stuff comes together pretty quickly. Yeah,
well, I'm just watching you work with it. I could see how that.
This larger pattern here is a brush called Plasma. Another one, this organic one in there is Spore, and you've already seen the hexagonal brush tips in there. I do have a certain way that I really like to actually work over body photos, especially if you have like a photo of a real client, and it's so that like. Is this correct? Yeah, this is right. You can use black exactly as it's supposed to be, but everything actually shows up inside of that skin like a more realistic tattoo color. That's fun. But
Brad, you should explain how that works. I know we've already got
I was just now trying to wrrap my mind around.
I never know how much to unpack certain things like that. But yeah, sure, let's do that. Yeah. Feel free to speak up or ask questions, please, because
that is I mean, in terms of just trying to visualize something in a way that looks somewhat realistic, that right there is, next century.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. I'm going to delete all of this here. All right. So let's see. Normal. There we go. So you've got a photo from your client. Very first thing I do, just ignore this one. I'm going to save myself some time. The first thing you want to do is change your top layer to multiply. And the very first reason I do that is so that you can use white and nothing will actually happen. You can use gray, paint that in there. Let's use a black and paint this in here. But it's, you're never ever going to like add lightness to skin. It's always going to be the skin, or it's going to be darker than the skin with a tattoo. So you can see here I'm using white, and it's almost acting like an eraser. But Anyway, so that's why I keep the realistic skin on top of everything. Everything is looking through that, just like a tattoo.
And that's just using the putting the layer mode on multiply.
For your natural skin color, right? Now let me fill this up with something a little bit calmer. How about I just take my hard brush here, do something like this. Now, to actually get that skin effect, the tattoo skin, what you want to do is duplicate this and then change this top one to lighter color. Then you come into the settings for that. Let's go to probably the most all-in-one is hue, saturation, brightness. Bring down your saturation and bring down your brightness. And there it is, like immediately, just about. Sometimes I like to add a little bit of blue in there. Wherever it is, there it is. You get that kind of like gunmetal color sometimes in a lot of certain like outdoor light. But you know, if you're uncertain, I just blast that saturation all the way down and leave it somewhere that looks pretty good. You have all this overhang here too. And you could use one layer and mask that whole layer. But if you want all of your layers to be masked together, but also not lose any of that information that's outside of your drawing, maybe you're making a stencil and it's going to have to wrap around. You know, you don't want that immediately cut off that way. But what you would do is you would actually make a clipping mask. And here I have this down here. Let's turn clipping mask on. And all it is you can see this. It's transparent out here and it's white inside of the actual body. That's all it is. So a lot of the ways I might be able to get that is to automatic here. How about that? Select that areas out there. It's those protoplast models are great because you have all that white on the outside. You know, if you have a bunch of messy stuff on your background, I ask clients to try and get clean background photos, but I usually end up just coming in there with like a white brush and just outlining their body. It takes me like 5 minutes to do it, but it makes the whole process so clean throughout, so that like, you know, throughout the entire time of you designing it, you never really have to like wonder what it's going to look like.
Well, it turns it from a photo into an actual template.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. This is one of my favorite ones here. This is Jupiter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really like this one.
You know, just yesterday we were doing an exercise.
A little bit of that,
drawing
yeah.
turbulence.
Yeah. But then once you actually add the chaos into it, you know, like actually liquefying it there, it just goes crazy. Yeah. With a little bit of patience and control, though, you can make it look better than I am right now.
Someone could easily make their entire tattoo career off of that alone.
Right. Oh yeah.
You can do so much with so little nowadays. Just hyper focus that one thing you do into one really sharp spear. You got it.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, people are asking where this set is available.
Now, is this set still unreleased? This is a sneak preview we're getting here.
I think that's a question for Russ.
This is the world premiere sneak preview. Yeah, we're not expecting to actually release this into the wild for another few weeks. I would imagine sometime in January. I can't give you an exact date, but we're just working on our marketing materials and working on preparing for the launch. So
this makes me giddy, though. Just looking at this, seeing the potential, watching it get manipulated and customized, and you know, the possibilities are absolutely endless.
I will say this to the people that are listening right now. If you email russ@tattoosmart.com and let me know if you are interested, I'm looking for a very small team of tattooers to test this out and see what you can create using it. So I'm going to just go with a few of the people who reach out and request an advanced copy of this set. You'll have to sign all kinds of fancy contracts that you won't share it with anyone or anything like that. But I mean, we'll come and take your house and
Yeah, I would love to.
Tattoosmart.com.
There we go. Yeah, I would love to do a few things with this. I've got ideas right away.
I can't wait to see what different artists do. People that have a different stylistic background even than Brad, are going to have a totally different take on these tools. And this is one of those times where the technology really does create the possibility of something entirely new and interesting happening in tattooing, just because of the availability of a tool that didn't exist before. And that's the kind of thing that just gets me so excited.
Yeah, and then the thing that I also love is when you create a tool, someone creates a tool, and then they release it into the wild, and immediately people start using it in ways that tool creator never imagined or intended, right? And so I'm very, very psyched to see what happens with this, because these are really very just, I don't even know what to say about it, except that it is you've got a new way of dividing dark and light, a new way of handling positive and negative, of manipulating it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't even think I could start to grasp a quarter of the possibilities until I actually have it in my lap and I start working with it. But yeah, it's just incredible watching Brad manipulate the stuff in real time. Yeah.
Well, I knew that Brad's brush set was going to steal the show, so I wanted it to be, because who would want to follow this?
Right.
This was actually that Jupiter set. I just blasted it over the whole body part.
Yeah, it went heavier with some and lighter with some, and
you can actually see an inversion happen here, where it's actually just a flat pattern, but since I added an inversion right here, it looks like it actually switches out. Let's see, somewhere back there. There it is, right there. You can kind of see that happen. So I just use a difference layer upstairs over here. You can see. You could really just flip around and play with light and dark wherever you want to. Let's see what else here. Let's see. This was a piece I made. There was a little bit more like artwork, I would never try and tattoo this, But using colors and transparent layers and blending modes, like I just love messing around with all that kind of stuff, because you eventually can find some way to incorporate it into a tattoo,
I think it's so important,
some kind of technique.
It's so important to just make pictures sometimes, though, that that's not one of the thoughts on your mind.
Yeah,
whether you can tattoo it or not. And as tattoo artists, we're very habitual about that. It's on our mind all the time, and even when I'm doing a painting, I'm not thinking of as a study for a tattoo. There's a little part of me that's like, that's a little too low contrast right there, and I have to correct myself. Don't have to worry about that. The orange isn't going to fade, Yeah. The black isn't going to close up.
There's another one here. That was fun, actually. I was trying to do something a little bit more like having some more kind of Geiger sort of elements in there. I got really drawn into this because I got really kind of, when I was tattooing, I got tired of squinting at it and judging the value while I was spending time on this person. And I just got really into the idea of the body itself actually producing the grays. Like we're putting it onto a surface that the contrast just gets absolutely crushed over the years. So I was really curious to see what if you just put Geiger through a threshold filter or a black and white filter, and this basically is what that means.
Right. So basically just the natural, like the rise and fall of her musculature, the high points end up being
right. And the body's a three-dimensional object already. Just let it do what it does does best, you know, just like reflect light, you know, have like luminance in that skin.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's see. Here's another one here. This one got pretty crazy. There's a simpler one somewhere further back here. There's several versions of this. Ended up tattooing this. We got some photos of that somewhere, at least on this computer over here.
Is it on your Instagram?
It is not. It is not on my Instagram. I could probably actually, what I can do is I can change this monitor right here to show my desktop, where I can actually go through some of those photos if you want.
You don't post a ton of tattoos, do you?
No. Well, I was working on this thing for a long time, so I kept a lot of that stuff on kind of under wraps, you know.
Right.
I get into other stuff besides tattooing as well. Like I just really like to find personal projects of mine to find further techniques to eventually like come back into tattooing with, you know.
That's always kind of like the interesting, you know, kind of end point is you learn something in a different medium and then you come back to tattooing and you say, okay, can I use this or can I adapt it?
Mm-hmm.
Because tattooing is this filter. You have to bring it down to this simplified version, and you have to think of it in terms of longevity and movement and everything else. With this one, I really like how that highlight in the center of the head is. Oh yeah, there you go.
You guys are seeing this now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, hold on. Oh, yep. All good.
All good. Yeah, so this is just a couple photos we took of that tattoo. Took some video of it too. Yeah. The stuff really it doesn't take terribly long to do this. This took me like about 3 hours and 20 minutes or so. It goes really, really, really fast when you don't have to squint at it and wonder whether or not you're at the right value or not. You just steamroll it. You just go. Let's see. I can stop the share here now. Where is everybody else on here now? There you are.
Russ, a couple people are asking, how do they contact you to get in touch with to possibly experiment with this?
I think his sound might be off. It's
Hey,
I
Russ.
believe it. Russ at tattoosmart.com, right?
Yeah, Russ at tattoosmart.com. Sorry, I have myself on mute there. I can't take everybody, but I'm looking for a few folks. So hit me up in the email, maybe throw in a link to your Instagram so I can get a sense of the work that you do, and we'll pick a small group.
Yeah, and if we've got a few people in the normal reinventing drawing group who end up trying this out, maybe sometime this coming few weeks, we could have a drawing group where we just focus on these tools. That could be fun.
Love that.
Yeah, it's endless.
Oh, what you got going there,
Easy to get
Russ?
sucked into these, huh?
So what is this set called? Do you have a name for it yet?
That was hard. That was really hard. We arrived at like Cyberfluidics.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
I really started off like for some reason ferrofluid kind of came to mind because of the way the two layers work and the way that the black is sort of like interacting with the sort of invisible pattern below.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Ferrofluid, the way it morphs as you move magnets around, it adapts
Right.
to the forces that are being
played upon it.
But most people don't really know what that is, and it's already a thing, so
Right.
it might have just been kind of confusing. It seems to serve the purpose,
Yeah.
Let's see. I suppose I can just kind of let me just open one of these up, just start going. I suppose. Let me see. I already did one here.
Yeah. I love how you.
It goes so fast,
together effortlessly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the way that you're then able to change the parameters of the thickness of those waves, and when you're altering those, it doesn't mess with the larger pattern at all. It just happens within it.
This is what's also great about being able to use white by having your skin tones on top, is that you just see what that's doing right there, so it's much more helpful to me to think of all that 0 to 255 range of black to white, in the digital language at least, without the interference of the photo. Got so many shapes and things going on in here too, though. Let's see, this one's called Gravity.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you might kind of.
Well, it kind of brings me back to MC Escher. He did a few dimensional space grids like this that I always found kind of mind blowing.
Mm-hmm. Let's go the other way with that.
Yeah, there you go. So if you want to do a negative version of any of these, you just erase it out of a black area.
I didn't even erase it. That's just white.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Just filled it up with black, and I use white. But if you do want to actually push it back the other way, let me show that again real fast. But let me show another brush. There's some really interesting ones I actually want to hit here. Here's a cool one that I like a lot.
I love that one.
Yeah,
it's like a half tone with connecting numbers.
Yeah, it's called a trouche pattern. So what it is each of these little areas right here, it's taking one tile and flipping it over and over again. It's actually like a triangular tile, something like that, and it turns it. But you can make it snake any kind of direction here, and you see how the size of the pattern. You can kind of see how it does this right here, but you can actually alternate it just by turning your canvas.
Yep.
And it will move this way, and then it will move this way. You can kind of cross them together too. You have some interaction happening there. I have some supporting brushes for that too as well. This one's just called Node. I love having a color picker on my finger, but my God, does it always get in my way.
Yeah.
It's worth it though. For all the times it saves me and takes, it's a net gain. There we go. There's the other way around there. But, let's just pick a red. Come back to the normal. How about Node right there?
Yeah.
We're going to have to get rid of that layer. You can see what's happening there. I can pick the inverted node, which is right here, and let's pick another color without too much concern about what it is.
Yeah, okay. Right.
And then maybe white again. You just go over and over and over and just really build into that. What else? Let's pick something else. How about... People are always really into these for some reason. We already went over some of those here. Did some of the different cube faces. Yeah, and these first few up here is kind of really where the sort of shapes that I started working with a long time ago.
That's where it all began.
Yeah, just using really simple lines because I was interested in well, in Biomech, there's not really a whole lot of, there's not too much complexity. And I was trying to start from a simple place. Let me try something here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you real quick the more complicated way I like to do things. So I'm going to actually make a substrate layer. And that's what that's going to look like. Then over top of that, do white, and you do a hard mix mode. And I'm going to brush, I'm going to just go to some of these types of brushes that I like to use over here. Let's pick a normal airbrush. You can see what's happening here. So, you know, you might like want to start like painting whatever kind of shapes or flow that you like to do like that. Then you can think about the actual rhythms of it separately. And begin to do things like this. Now you can get really, really crazy though. Let me, paint into this with airbrush here. That's correct. Pick a white. Make sure I got clipping mask on because that's bothering me. There we go. Try not to spend too long on this kind of stuff. So let me now take, as we have our substrate right here, I actually need to do this. I'm going to add a white layer to the bottom of that. I'm going to merge this down into it. Now it's correct. And now I can do the things that I want to do with it. And let's actually, I like to scroll through the blending modes and see what happens here. So let's try difference.
And then, you know, that's an important point right there is just because you don't know what something does doesn't mean you shouldn't check it out.
Oh yeah.
Very, very easy to check out the different looks that you can get with these different modes.
Yeah, let's see what's going on here. First off, I need to expand this a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, a lot more readable on the phone scale.
Now let's, oh, I know what to do here. So a little bit of remembering, I don't have a lot of these there's so many different things that you can do. I don't have any of them written down. So I'm going to make a layer in between these. This one's just going to be difference. And I can paint in between here. And let's see what this does here. This airbrush is not doing what I want it to do. I'm just going to go over to my brush here. There it is. So you see what's happening here. It's actually sort of flipping the substrate pattern beneath it.
All right, it's like an inversion brush.
Yeah, but just for that pattern, because I can still come on top of here and slide this around.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
So yeah,
so you can create a graphic. Let's just say a circle or a skull or something with that inversion brush, and then just move your other pattern around. And just watch how it reacts to it.
Yeah, I like to. This brush is a little bit hard for me. Let me try this one. This one might appear some certain other kind of way. It's a little tough for me, but I'm going to come in here just really fast. Source library, and I'm going to get something about a medium. There we go. That should do what I want it to do now. Just a little bit of a softened kind of border going on there. I have a lot of fun just playing with this sort of the goopiness that's going on here. Now I can actually grab this individual layer here too and do this. Slide this wherever I really want that to be. Let me pick this. turn this back here again. Should have made a duplication of that.
So, Brad, if we were to have a drawing group that was focused around experimenting with these tools, would you be down with joining us?
Sure thing. Takes a little bit of. I feel like I'm needing some brain power for that one right there.
Yeah. I think that at this point, we're all feeling so overwhelmed by all of this. We need a chance to digest it and really think about it. But I'm really excited to get a chance to try this out and maybe have a session where you're able to join us. And we've actually got it on our iPads, and we can work it while you're there to demonstrate it. I think that would be a beautiful thing.
It'll be. I think I'm really good at answering questions about these kinds of things. So if there's questions, I won't be able to stop talking. So
Okay.
that's definitely possible. I could
And
work
then
that.
also when it is available to the public, there's also the chance of having a larger drawing group at that point. I personally would love the chance to test drive this while we've got you on the line.
Yeah.
Oh, this is incredible. And I want to thank Russ for doing this. You know, this whole thing with Tattoo Smart is it's Russ's brainchild, and I think that he really had a vision for the future of tattooing here, and we are seeing it happen. And it's this great community project. You know, we can involve a lot of different artistic voices in creating this incredible tool set.
Yeah, Russ was very helpful. He was very encouraging throughout this process, especially while I was fraying apart. And once I started hitting certain scales, you know, because a lot of the stuff I didn't. I knew that like something like this could work, but it wasn't until I talked to Russ that I was like, I've always known that I could do variations of patterns like that, but it's just so easy to stay in your lane, you know. But just a little bit of encouragement. It was easy to sit down and spend 3 months just making little patterns over and over again. It's so satisfying, though. You know, very very blue collar work, just real straightforward. You know, when you nail it, there's no wiggle room about it. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Brad, how many more patterns do you imagine you could come up with if you had another 3 months?
Oh, I have lists. I have one of the folders just strewn with stuff from Pinterest. So I was like, I could make that. I could do that. That could be cool, you know?
Yeah.
It does hit with the way that it works by using hard mix, and I had to like do a bunch of like vector work to really actually make the set. I wasn't able to make it within Procreate, you know. But by the way that it works with hard mix, I do notice that with like the more complexity that's really going on, a little bit harder it has hanging on. It really just depends on the pattern. It all comes down to that pattern of whatever it is that you're working with, because there's always going to be that little bit of schmooze that's going on in there.
We all learned the new word today, schmooze.
Yeah. Yeah. But I did play around. I sent you that 12-fold one a little while ago. I just kind of wanted to.
Yeah.
I really wanted to know if I could do it.
I want to know if you can do it times 100 in that realm. We're talking about more Persian, Islamic Persian sort of symmetries.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Totally.
Those are incredible patterns.
If it's around, like in that sort of style, like I think this thing works great, and I can make a lot of those for
So
sure.
we're limited to patterns that tile well in a square with these. Is that correctly? Like some of those, they become like wide rectangles.
Well, some of them are just wide rectangles, but like the way I got around that with hexagons. So
yeah, you did, right? How did you do that?
Yeah. So Guy, like a hexagon is really hard to fit a perfect tile into a square. It just doesn't really want to line up side to side. So what I did is I found the right number of hexagons that would most closely approximate that, and it's like a hair's width close to perfect with these, you know.
Right. And yeah, you have to come up with these compromises. It is and when you do it right, no one would ever suspect.
It's barely one at all. Like I have to fill up the whole screen and rotate it, and you just see that the lines are like off, like even the pixels are still touching, you know. Like I'll call that gold. It's good. It's fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For something for Procreate like this. Yeah, so it just kind of comes down to whether or not how hard it would be for some certain, like I noticed that some of those tiles were like a 3:4 ratio or something like that. And like I'd have to begin somewhere. I don't know if I'll be able to finish, if there is a finish line. I didn't know there was a finish line for the hexagon stuff, but I eventually found it, you know.
Right.
Right.
Just took honestly, I just went through Google image search and found the one that like looked almost right enough. All the other ones it was such a poor image too of this perfect tile. I couldn't believe it wasn't like in some kind of internet like treasure trove or something, you know.
The way that they have like a piece of platinum that represents the kilogram, you know, some kind of a digital standard of the hexagon.
Yeah. Or just that designers don't need a perfectly tiling hexagon. Like I was like, where are these? Of course people need that.
Well, I can't tell you how many times I've ended up looking for something that I thought was, you know, straight up, you know, easy peasy. And then the more I realized, you know, everything I see is just some weird, you know, interpretation of it. But if I want like the actual perfect, simple, unembellished version of this particular shape, it's going to come down to me making it. You know, that happens a lot.
Yeah, Russ, with your 12-fold, I had to, you know, the scale of these hexagons is not significant. You know, it was like a couple handful across, but I had to take that whole pattern and shrink it into every individual hexagon, and so that it would actually fit inside of that square.
Yeah,
that was, yeah.
That makes sense, though. You know, I mean, it guarantees that it's going to work.
Yeah. You still only have to do it once. You know, with Illustrator, you just drag it over and hit Control D, and it goes pop, 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 and do it once more for all of those going all the way up. You know, you get it to a certain point and everything just starts free falling.
Yeah.
Towards the target.
Well, I'm not going to let you off the hook.
Not Oblivion.
I want more of those patterns for sure.
Yeah, sure thing.
Awesome.
Well, I can't wait to see where else this goes. I think we should probably wrap this up for the night because we've been going for a couple of hours, and I think everyone is just mind blown right now.
I'm really glad I still have a lot of battery power over here. I was kind of worried about that.
I want to thank everyone who tuned in tonight, and I want to thank Russ, Damon, and Brad for this demonstration. This is really incredible, and you can find all this stuff except for Brad's set, of course, which is not available yet at tattoosmart.com. And Russ, you do have gift certificates there, right? So
yeah, it's not too late to pick up a gift certificate. We're working on a maybe a last minute gift certificate promotion too. So be on the lookout for that.
Hey, Damon.
Yeah,
Damon,
I didn't say hi yet.
Without letting,
how's it going, Brad? Good to see you, man. Cool stuff. Well, completely fucking blown away. Had a lot of fun playing with it myself.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
All right.
Come out weird. Let's not make it weird though.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you again, everyone. This is terrific. And, you know, I'm going to spend the rest of the night just kind of like trying to digest all this. And I look forward to reconvening sometime soon and, you know, really diving into these tools with actually installed on our iPads. That's going to be something else. So thank you. And we'll be seeing you all soon. Gabe, what is our next event this week? We've got tomorrow, the Tattoo Collectors podcast, right?
No. Tattoo Collecting podcast is on Thursdays at noon.
Right. Yep.
Tomorrow, 7 is Tales in the Castro. So straight from the heart of San Francisco. We've got punk rock, queer, tattoo craziness.
Nice. And then Thursday's Tattoo Collector podcast. And then, of course, Sunday, we've got the Nick Baxter Paint Jam Sunday night. What else we got, Gabe? Anything I'm forgetting here? Sunday afternoon, we've got another drawing group. Is it Jason Leeser is going to be leading that one?
Correct. And then Monday morning, reinventing drawing group, needle jig interviews Monday, your exercises Monday nights. Pretty much 5 or 6 days a week, we're doing something.
Yeah. Well, that means I'll be seeing all you folks sometime soon on one of these things. But I'm going to go eat, and it's been terrific hanging with y'all.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm clicking the button. We're ending.